Flip of the Week!
Hi, and welcome to Flip of the Week. Today I'm going to be talking about getting a good rim shot sound. Now, to get this, I found what works the best for me is my seat posture. So I'm going to take you through a quick little tour of how I make sure that I'm seated well. This is what I go through every time I sit at a new drum set or I set up my set for a gig or something. And it's just a few points that are very important. First thing I do is I make sure that my seat is at a good height so I'm not sitting too high or too low. If I sit too high, I generally tend to lean forward, and that means when I lift my foot, I lose balance. And if I sit too low, I get lower back pain. So if I sit where my legs are at a 90-degree angle on the pedals, that's the most useful way of sitting. The next thing I pay attention for is where I'm sitting on the chair. I like to sit as far back on the seat as possible because that way all my weight is in the center of the chair and that keeps my back straighter. I use just a standard round seat, but there are also seats like bicycle chair ones that I think people like the feeling of having their legs a little bit more free. Once I have my seat in a good position and I'm seated on it in a good position, I make sure that my feet on my hi-hat and my bass drum pedal allow me to be at an equal distance from the chair. That means one leg isn't sticking out further than the other. When I set up to make sure my feet are on the pedals comfortably, I make sure I can play them with my heels down, my heels up, and I can also move my feet around to hit multiple pedals, all while maintaining a balanced posture. Once I feel that this is comfortable, then I make sure that my snare drum is at a good height. And as I get into the snare drum height, I make sure that I can hit the center. I can hit the rim without very much effort. So that means that when I hit the rim, I can then just with a little pivot move down to hit the rim shot. And that's the key to making sure I can hit this not only powerfully but consistently. I'm going to show you a few examples of playing with the different sounds that I can get with the snare. First example is without the rim. Next example, I'll be playing a rim shot. The hand position is very slightly different, but the sound is clearly a lot louder. The next thing that I check for when I'm making sure my snare is in a good position is how far away it is from me, making sure that I can do a nice buzz roll even on the outer part of the drum. Then the final check is to make sure that I'm not going to be hitting anything else when I play a rim click. So thank you for checking out this week's Flip of the Week. See you next time.